Did you get paid?
You should be the next, Jack Ma or the Tony Ma. You're getting 3 hours of sleep a day. Entrepreneurship is tough. Even our VC went out of business. From the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, we will have a device on our head.
We have very short time, but I have so many questions. Probably we can dive in and go briefly with some questions. So the first one would be, where did you start your career? What was your first job? Was it IBM?
Yeah, I guess my first official corporate work was at IBM. I took a co-op assignment there, so it was a 9-month assignment, and helping develop the Power PC chip at IBM, which actually really took me to a direction of moving towards electrical engineering tech. I was deciding between doing aeronautic engineering or electrical engineering. And I was applying to jobs at Boeing for the B-1 bomber or the IBM project. And the B-1 bomber needed one extra security clearance I couldn't get, so I went towards the chip side. So.
And after that, right away, you had your first entrepreneurial experience. What was it? What did you learn from it?
So. Yeah, so I guess during college, I actually, me and a roommate, we started a company. It was we were building computers in our apartment and then selling
Was it Apple?
No. We were building computers to sell to small businesses, small medium businesses, including the university we were at, and we actually paid for our school with that business, and. It was actually pretty interesting. I mean, we're in our living room. We had dozens of computers we were building from hand. Buying different parts from around the world, and creating kind of 386, 486 devices, and then networking them together, and then doing custom programming, and helping businesses create. This is kind of very early days in the late 80s.
Wow. And then back to the corporate, right? You spent 6 years at Intel. And you also helped to actually found it Intel China.
Yes.
So you traveled to China.
Uh-huh.
What was the biggest challenging part and what was the biggest exciting part about it?
Yeah, Intel was a really good experience for me. It was a very good foundational experience because it's such a well-run company, and the Intel culture is very established, right? With having Andy Grove at the helm at the time, he really knew how to run a tight business. And I actually had the opportunity to present to him a few times when he came to China. But the first year I was in a rotational program, so I worked in 4 different business units in marketing, in engineering, design, in chip architecture, and in board design. And so having both the kind of business and technical side of it, and then after that, I found an opportunity to go back to China because the GM that was founding the China organization, I knew him, and they wanted somebody who can help. So I was one of the 3 founders of this China office, and it was very challenging because at the time, there was no PCs, there was hardly any PCs in the country, and just getting a phone line, it took over a month just to order a landline. It's amazing now. You can get same day, gigabyte to the office or to the home. It's the life here has gotten so much better. And there was no elevated highways here. There was no subways. It took about 2 hours to get from the airport to the Bund. It was crazy. Very, very different environment, and then to create it from scratch, right? It was fun because we're a little bit away from headquarters, so there's so much more autonomy, and having ability to really find the people we want, establish the strategy locally, and execute. And I gave a proposal to my GM. I said, hey, look, there's no consumer business here. Let's create consumer businesses because China, so many people, right? So, and he said, okay, go write a report about it. And so I took 2-3 weeks and wrote like a 30-page plan about how to open up the China consumer market. And essentially I said, look, the PCs are way too expensive. They're about $2,000 to $3,000 US. The average income was a few $100s a month, so it just was out of reach, right? There was no content. Everything was in English, and very expensive. Right? And then 3 was that there was just no channels to buy it. There's only these business centric stores that you can buy an IBM or a Compaq or a HP. So there was no content that would be interesting to consumers. So I said, look, let's find a way to fix all this. And so I essentially created a plan that said, look, let's bring in low-cost motherboards and chips to target this market. And we were, over the next 2-3 years, we would bring the average prices down to about $500 from $2,000. And getting these mom and pop shops, we had 10,000 mom and pop shops that was building their own PCs with motherboards. So this was, because I had some of this experience when I was in college, right? So, and they were selling it for 50 RMB profit. They would build a PC, load the software, get everything getting running for you. And then, I also talked to dozens of international software vendors to get them to localize their content to Chinese, and then we would give them a $0.25 US per copy, because normally they would just get copied anyways for free, pirated, because at that time nobody paid for software, right? So just to be able to get that distribution. And then the other thing was I also talked to all of the Chinese OEMs, including Legend, Great Wall, Founder, getting them to create home-oriented PCs. Back then, Legend Computers, now Lenovo, was number 7 PC vendor in the country, and they only had like 2 or 3 people in their PC division. It was the guy who's now the chairman was the department manager. So it's just the world has changed so much. But so after that first year or so, we got it all going, and it really just started taking off. The business grew from almost nothing to about $300 million over the next 2-3 years. So the market was there, but the pieces wasn't available. And I think having the force of Intel and its influence at the time allowed us to move the market forward. So it was a great learning experience for me, and everybody that worked for me was older than me. Everybody that worked for me was had more education than me. But so I was very lucky that I came from headquarters and had that opportunity to take a more leadership role, even though I was so young. So I really be very thankful to the GM for trusting me.
And then you started your own company again. Back to the entrepreneurial experience.
So actually, I went after 3 years. I had to go back to the U.S. Mm-hmm. So before I started my company, I had to do another year kind of at the headquarters. And after working in a startup kind of entrepreneurship environment, it was very difficult to go back to corporate and having all these layers of management, decision making, everything very slow, and no autonomy. And I was like, I want to do something different. And that was when I actually got an opportunity to apply to MIT for their dual degree program. And so I got the fellowship to go there, and it was all paid for by MIT. And so I said, look, if I'm going to get a dual master's at MIT and have no need to get a loan, there's nothing better than that. So then I went to MIT. And amazing experience, because so many smart people there, so many smart professors and colleagues from all around the world. They were all kind of the best of whatever space that they came from. So I was very fortunate I actually got in. And the funny thing is my brother also applied. So I got in first, and then he was going to go to Stanford. I said, why do you go to Stanford? Come to MIT, we should go there together. So he applied to MIT, and we both got into the same program. So we were the first time a brother pair was able to get into Sloan at the same year. So, and so amazing experience. But then while at MIT, it's a very entrepreneurial environment. Mm-hmm. And they have this thing called the 50K competition. So it's a business plan competition they do every year. And I essentially said, look, I love entrepreneurship, so I'm going to write something. And so I wrote a plan and actually got into the finals both the years I was there. That experience is so amazing because you get to go and recruit your team. You have all these experts around you that can give you feedback and advice. And everybody there, this is in 1998, and so it's kind of the middle of the dot-com boom, right? So everybody's talking about business and venture capital and startups, and so there's all this excitement. Every coffee shop you go into, you see people talking and working out plans. This feels, I'm sure it's a very similar environment to what Silicon Valley at the same time was. So it's, Boston and Silicon Valley are probably the two tech and entrepreneur capitals of the U.S. So I was very fortunate to be there, and that's when I kind of got back into the startup business. The first one I did was in investments, where taking institutional investment tools and not dumbing it down, but simplifying it in a way that allows people to take emotions out of trading. Because this is also when the day trading, kind of the dot-com boom, everybody got back into day trading. It feels a little bit like what's happening now with all the meme stocks, right? Because everything was, overnight was doubling in price, and things were breaking all records. And we're seeing the same thing right now with all these meme stocks and EV stocks that are just going crazy, and Metaverse stocks. But the biggest issue with investing is that most people are way too emotional. They all, the greed and the fear act too much in their decision making. So I went and found a institutional analytics tool, and then put it onto the web, so you don't need to download anything. It's like a software as a service. So we were very early with that concept, and then was able to actually get VCs to give us a term sheet. Unfortunately, as soon as we got the term sheet, the company that we had licensed technology from, there was one clause that said they can, within a certain period, until we receive our funding, they can pull back the technology. And when they heard we got a term sheet, they actually pulled back the technology. So it was a lesson learned that you have to be very careful looking at your legal documents. And anyways, but so that was a great learning experience, but it didn't ended up what I wanted to do. So it didn't end up well, I guess I should say.
Well, but great experience over there. And then you moved back to China.
No. So and then I did my second startup.
Okay.
So this was at the same time I was doing the 2 years of Sloan. I also took 6 months to go back to Intel and actually start up their Intel Online Services, which is at the time kind of the cloud data center service, something that was brand new for Intel. Over kind of a year, we spent about $1 billion building about 7 or 8 data centers around the world. Went from 5 people when I started to 1,000 people. So it was a very interesting experience, and a new space for me, because I hadn't been in kind of the networking and data space. In fact, while I was doing this, I was also writing my master's thesis as well on kind of geographically distributed data networks, and so I managed the Asia Pacific business, and was traveling between our headquarters for this business in Seattle and Asia and Boston. And then also starting my second startup. So I was doing tri-coastal commutes almost every week between the 2 U.S. coasts and somewhere in Asia, going to Japan, going to China, going to India, going to Korea, talking to the telecom providers, and then coming back and then meeting with VCs in the US for my other startup, which was a big data startup, big data and AI analytics startup, essentially helping companies evaluate customers' value and targeting customers, and doing kind of what I guess a lot of what the analytic companies are doing today with ad targeting. But back in, I guess it was back in 99, 2000. And we actually did raise money then. So this is, kind of doing a startup, doing a corporate job, and doing 2 degrees at the same time. I would have to say that was probably my toughest time in the world of my life until then. Actually, probably still, even now, looking back, because the workload just to go to school. Some people who just go to Sloan alone, they complain about, I have to read 100 pages a day of different case studies. It's so hard work, but having the combination of that just made you're getting 3 hours of sleep a day, and you're lucky if you actually get that. I remember I was flying back sometimes and didn't have time, so I would sleep in the Sloan building on a bench, and then go to class, and then go after class, go meet with VCs, and then go to the airport after that to go fly out to another coast. It was it was fun because it was so hard that everything else became so much easier afterwards. So we did actually raise money right after the dot-com boom, so dot-com bust actually. So 2000, March 2000 was when dot-com busted, everything started crashing, and we raised money in May of 2000, which was a very difficult time, but and we got half of the money that was promised by the VC, and we were so happy. It was like, look, we're real startup, real VC money. We got a nice big office. Our team grew from like 3 people to about 25 people. We bought some nice furniture. All the mistakes that you do when you first have money and first time as a venture-backed entrepreneur. Unfortunately, kind of what happened late 2000, 2001. All of our customers went out of business because we were all targeting e-commerce companies. We were targeting kind of internet portals, and we had the technology was built. We were able to define people, which were the high value customers, and be able to give this information in real time to these targeted client space, and then they would then adjust their pricing and promotions to the customer to be able to attract the most high value customers. Because I think you've probably seen the data that says 5% of your customers generates 90 or 80% of your profitability. So you really want to just focus on getting on the most high value customers, and that's what we were able to take people's tracking. Their browsing history, a few purchase behaviors, and some of the other information about them that we can find on cookies to be able to evaluate this and to do it all with AI processing. And also looking at their IP addresses, their actual physical addresses, and analyze their actual value. So it was exciting times, and we had some really cool technology. Unfortunately, after a year and all of our customers going out of business, even our VC went out of business. That was so they're like, we can't give you your second part of your money. They're like, shit, we needed this money to keep going. But we still kept going for another 3 months, even without any compensation. We moved out of the office that we had got. We went to the basement of our CTO. We went from 25 people down to like 6 people. So that cycle was such a amazing learning experience, because to have that first the upside of all of the quick growth, and seeing the market growing, and then all of the downside of saying, shit, all of our customers are going out of business, our revenues are going away, having to fire people, having to lay people off, having some people in the company turn against you. It just I think you can't get that I learned more in that year and a half than I did at all my courses at MIT. So.
And you didn't stop there. You moved to China and started again businesses in China.
No. So actually, after that, I went to Taiwan. So my old boss at Intel joined a company in Taiwan. This is right after the 9/11. Bombing, and so security became the big thing. So, I then was called by my old boss, who joined the largest kind of enterprise security company. So I moved to Taiwan. Started to manage their enterprise business. Grew that by like 50% in a year, and then they wanted to expand their consumer business, and they moved me to run that part of the business, and I grew that by like 30% in a year. It's just both a combination of having the right product at the right time and the industry really needing it, and then changing the culture of a Taiwanese security company, Trend Micro, which was more, I guess, more conservative, and we really became much more aggressive, much more outspoken, and getting out there. I remember I had a trip where I went to like 35 cities in 30 countries within 45 days. So, so just evangelizing and with our new product launch, and really, just going out there and really making the blitz, and it worked. And we were to recruit, top channels, get customers to come in, and get press to cover us, and it's kind of doing the right thing at the right time. At the end of the day, that was, I think there was a lot of studies out there saying, what's the most important thing to success of a startup? Is whether it's team or it's investments or it's product or it's whatever. At the end of the day, it's having the right timing. Actually, is the most important thing. You can have very little money, but the right timing, you could be successful. You could have a mediocre team, but the right timing, and you just go with the wave, and you could be successful. So. But that was also a fun experience, because it was also fast growth. Just having a lot of trust also from the chairman and CEO in terms of allowing me to do these things. So I've been very lucky throughout my career that people have trusted me to execute and to be able to think independently.
That's super important. A few words about your China companies, early China companies, entrepreneurial experience back in 2000.
Yeah. So 2005, I came back to China because I just feel like, the U.S. was starting to really boom on the internet side, but China was just starting out, and the internet started, but the mobile internet hasn't happened. And I thought, hey, I should get in here, try to do something with the mobile internet, because it's going to be huge. And with 1 billion people here, and people needing that mobility, and so at the time there wasn't mobile internet, but there was text messaging. So I actually came back here, talked to one of my old colleagues that used to work for me at Intel, and we started this company that created kind of what Siri does today with kind of natural language processing, but we did it with text messaging. So you can send a text message, ask a question, get an immediate answer. Right? So at the time, very innovative. This was 2005, and we were in the next couple of years able to take that technology, go to China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. All three of them were using our technology in their data centers to answer automated calls. We had dozens of people in their data centers. We were also the 2008 official search provider for the Olympics. Yeah, so it was a real honor for us, because at the time, anybody having to do anything with the Olympics, you had to pay millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, and we didn't pay anything. We just did it on our own merit.
Did you get paid?
No, we didn't get paid, but we had the honor, and we had a plaque that said, official provider of search for the Beijing Olympics. But it took us about 6 months of time to build that custom search solution for them on the mobile internet. But that was also a very fun and different experience, because China at the time was still, startups were not where people wanted to go. People wanted to go to big corporates and giant companies, right? The parents don't like their kids go to startup. Now the kids are very different. Now parents saying, oh, you should be the next, Jack Ma or the Tony Ma. Back then there was none of these cases. Nobody went public. Nobody got rich. So people can't, or none of the staff got rich, right? So parents wouldn't let their kids join startups. So it was actually very difficult to recruit high quality people. But still, we grew from 0 to 100, 150 people. It was a very also fun experience, because it was kind of the beginning of the 3G deployment in China, and working with the carriers, and working with large government organizations, also very difficult. So much learning, because they are the giant monopoly. They get to dictate the terms. So the first year your terms are pretty good, and then every year they kind of squeeze you, and at the end you essentially work just to cover your costs. because they're saying, okay, well, we could, and before we wanted to create, actually from the search thing, we wanted to then create a social network from it and sell ads, but they wouldn't let us sell ads because they're like, oh, we're a government service, you can't sell ads, so we had no additional revenue model except for the base service monies that we were getting from them. So it's very hard business. So we had to expand into other areas. We were doing kind of mobile consulting and project-driven businesses for different brands, and it's just. And then we did a social network that actually spun off from this business called Guanxi, which actually did pretty well for a time. It was kind of around the same time when WeChat came out. We were trying to be more like the LinkedIn type social network instead of, at the time there was kind of the WeChat, there was the Momo, more like the Tinder software, and then there was there was more a LinkedIn type stuff, and nobody was doing the LinkedIn stuff. We did that, but there wasn't much money in the LinkedIn. Everybody wanted to go to the kind of hookup type tools. So and the funny thing was the hookup tools were all fake because they actually hired people to just type in and pretend to be girls to attract guys and then sell ads, and then so they grew quickly, but it was all based on a lot of lies. And then once you get to a certain scale, I think there was some real girls there. But most of the initial, couple of years, it was just guys talking to each other on chat. But anyway, so again, just all of these high growth periods, very, very fun learning experience as an entrepreneur. I just feel like I'm just growing as a person, growing as a manager, growing as a leader, and then being out there and being vocal and helping spread the messages about what the power of the mobile internet and the power of mobile advertising and the value of community and all these things. Yeah, it was fun experience, but also very difficult. Every stage, there's entrepreneurship is tough.
But you also the investor, right? You invest in the companies, and you also been a part of opening MOOCs. Can you give a little bit more insights?
So I mean, I was fortunate that we did have some small exits with some of these companies, and one of the investors, Alvin, who was our investors, was starting up a mobile focused investment accelerator, and so I helped him start up the first MOOCs, mobile only accelerator. It was based in Taiwan. And I went there for about 3-4 months to really put that together. I hired the team, found and scouted the first group of entrepreneurs that we invested in, helped create the process and execute the initial few months of the process. So, and I told him, look, I didn't want to do this long term, but I really wanted to help him because he didn't have anybody else at the time that had that kind of entrepreneurial and leadership experience. But the MOOCs is still around. I think it's on like the 10th batch now, and they've got some really great companies that's come out of it. So it's I'm happy that I left some legacy there. In fact, I was just there in Taiwan about 7-8 months ago when they had one of their demo days, and it was great to kind of see a lot of the old friends there. But after that, when I was in Taiwan, I also had an opportunity to meet with HTC, and this is how I kind of came into this current chapter of my life in HTC and helping drive the kind of VR and XR development in China. And back in 1991, I actually studied with Tom Furness, who is the godfather of VR. So he started the first VR-focused research lab in the U.S. That is, kind of non-military based. He came out of the U.S. Air Force, and I was first exposed to VR then. And I remember doing my research paper and saying, hey, look, within 10 years, everybody will be using VR to educate because it's such a great tool. And I think it will still happen, but 30 years later, it's starting to happen now. In fact, just today I saw news that said there's some first official university that is started in VR only, and the schools will be teaching only in VR. So I think I think just recently Stanford just published their paper. They did a full 6-month course. Jeremy Billison, who is the head of their kind of VR program there, did their entire course in VR as well. So with several hundred students, over a extended period, and they were able to make it functional. And the students in there are so excited about it that even though they're not able to physically go to these courses because of all of the pandemic issues, they still felt that community of being next to each other and being able to do and see things that they can't do in the real world. So I think that's the potential of this technology to really change education and change our lifestyle. So it's amazing kind of where how much things have changed in the last 30 years in this space, and particularly in the last 5 years. I think it's the pace of growth and innovation. We started out with devices that had to be connected to just when I was in 91, the machines I was using was connected to $200,000-$300,000 workstation. The devices themselves were tens of thousands of dollars. Had very low resolution, very heavy. Now we just launched a few weeks ago the Vive Flow, which is a 180 gram device that fully standalone, 6DoF, 3K resolution. It's like what is it? About one tenth the weight. No, actually 1/15 the weight, 100 times the resolution, and 1/400th the price of the devices.
How much is it now?
Like $500. So very cheap compared to several $100,000 when I was in school. So just over the last few years, we've gone from PC only, wired only, to now completely wireless and thin and light devices. Over the next few years, it's going to be even more amazing because we're going to get the thin and light glasses like what you're wearing today, and then contact lenses. I mean, now just last year and a half ago, I was at CES, and I already am seeing prototypes of contact lenses that are able to give you black and white images that does not have any wires in it, right? So it's already possible. It's going to take them some time to get to high resolution, get them some time to get to all day wear. But again, that technology is coming. So all the things that we've been seeing in sci-fi movies is going to be part of our real world soon.
And I have to ask this question, probably already answered so many times. What is the metaverse and why everyone is talking about it? So probably lots of people heard about it, but they don't actually know what it is.
Yeah, I think metaverse is something that is there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation around. At the end of the day, it's not that complex, right? It's essentially the internet that we've been building as a world for the last 30 years has been very initially 2D focus more on text, and then to 2D focus, initially 1D of text to being 2D of kind of images and video. And then now what we're going to do is to move to a 3D type focused content, to spatial environments, to 3D environments, to 360 videos. So the same network, the same kind of openness, the same accessibility, but now instead of using a flat screen to look at it, you use a VR or AR device. Now, of course, you can still look at these 3D worlds on a 2D device, and you can use your keyboard and mouse to move around, but it'll be more like playing a video game. But once you put on your headset, then you're actually in this world, so you get that immersive experience. And instead of having websites, we're going to move to having virtual experiences or virtual worlds. Instead of having a ID and a profile photo of your social network, you essentially have your universal ID that crosses all of these worlds and an avatar that represents you in these worlds, right? So, and instead of having essentially collecting likes and followers like we do today on social network, you're going to be collecting real memories, because you're going to feel like you actually went somewhere, and you're going to be having contact to collect real relationship, real friendships, because when you do a joint experience with somebody, you actually build friendship, right? So in a lot of ways, the world that will be the digital world of the metaverse will be more like the real world today than the digital social world of the 2D internet. So because we're going to live and inhabit it instead of just consuming content, right? Right now, when we go on the internet, we look at videos and we read articles, but we're just consuming. But when you go into this metaverse, you are actually living in there. You're actually interacting. You're actually impacting that world, leaving your mark. And building friendships, and maybe even working or going to school in there, right? Where there's going to be virtual worlds that are going to need service people. They're going to need teachers. They're going to need tour guides, whatever, right? So there was a all of the metaverse term comes from Neil Stephenson's 92 book called Snow Crash. But the book I'm actually more excited about is Diamond Age from Neil Stephenson, which talks about the future as well. But in there's something called ractors. So it's reality actors. And I think in the future, when the metaverse becomes the most important part of our daily lives, people will actually work in this virtual world. So this is what ractors were. Was they were like teachers, or they were the people that played the characters. They were like the NPCs almost of these virtual worlds that then would be interacting with the real people. And so when service changes from being a face-to-face service, a lot of the service staff or service industry actually will move to this ractor model. I think it'll be very interesting, and you can be anywhere in the world and do this, right? So this actually opens up the economy to a global economy instead of being local economy or national economy. And it also, I think, it removes geographic and political borders. So it makes people feel more part of a citizen of the world instead of a citizen of a country or a member of a city, right? So our sense of self will start to be different. And I think it actually allows for more fluidity of economic class, right? Because right now, if you grow up in Bangladesh or Ethiopia, and you don't have access to a college education or to network of people, there's no way for you to move up in your social economic class. But if you have a device in the future, you're the same as anybody else. As long as you can provide that service, you can you can provide your creativity, your innovation, your ideas. You can show your value to the world. So it creates, I think, more equality in the world than there ever has been before. Right. So I think there's a lot of positives to this technology, but there's also, every technology is a two-edged sword. So we also have to be careful, because there's also, and we talked about this earlier, is that a chance for a kind of addiction to this technology, because it is so immersive, so interesting, so exciting, and creates so much self-worth that people may actually escape the real world to spend more time in the virtual world, just like a lot of the gamers do today with League of Legends or World of Warcraft. They spend tens of hours a day maybe in this game. In the future, we will actually be spending tens of hours a day in the metaverse. But I would still think we need to find a way to make sure there's a balance, that they're doing it in a healthy way, not in an addictive way. So it's going to be very interesting what world will look like when that happens. And it's probably 5 to 10 years away. It's not right here, right now. But when it happens, we're going to spend more time in these worlds than we do today in the real world. In the sense of, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, we will have a device on our head that will put us into this world. We may take it off to eat. We may take it off to go to the bathroom. Maybe sometimes you do some sports, you take it off. But it's going to be more indispensable to you than your phone is today, right? It will probably be as much screen time as your phone, your computer, and your TV put together will be the amount of screen time you have on this device, and when it becomes a mature technology. Because at that time, there will not be a need for any other screens in your life, because you could put a virtual screen anywhere you want. You can also be immersed in a virtual environment as a fully in-presence environment whenever you want. So then the need for screens that we see today will essentially go away.
Alvin, I want to say thank you so much. I have so many more questions, but the time is going to be finished soon. I think we probably have in the future another interview.
Yes.
Because it's so interesting, and I guess I will see you in the virtual world very soon.
Yeah. We have a lot of virtual events, so please do join some of them. I think we just had one for our product launch where we had at the end of it we had a VR concert. So one of the artists came in and did a faux kind of 3D virtual concert that people enjoyed as part of the launch event. So we're going to be doing more of that. In fact, I think this week Justin Bieber is doing a virtual concert as well, not in our platform, but in the Wave VR platform. So Adam, a shout out to Adam for a great job with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was In China Between Meetings with Alvin, Wang, Graylin. Thank you so much again. I think it's easy to find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn or Twitter, just A Graylin or Alvin Graylin. So
awesome. Please share, comment, like, and see you next time.
Thank you.